I still remember the exact moment my son stopped calling me Dad. It wasn't during an argument. It wasn't even said out loud. It was in the silence, after the accident, when he looked at me like I was already gone. That was the day I realized something far worse than broken. Bones had taken hold of my life. It started on a rainy Thursday. I had been driving back from a routine checkup. Nothing serious, just the usual stiffness in my back, the kind that comes with age and years of working long hours. I remember thinking about calling my son Armin on the way home. He'd been distant lately, but I told myself that's just how life goes. Children grow up, get busy, build their own worlds. Still, I missed him. I missed the way he used to call me just to ask how to fix something, the way he'd laugh at my terrible jokes, the way he'd sit across from me at dinner and talk about his dreams, like the world was wide open. Back then, I believed I was part of that world. The rain grew heavier as I drove. Visibility dropped, and I slowed down, gripping the wheel a little tighter. That's when it happened. A sharp screech, a sudden flash of headlights, and then nothing but the sound of metal folding into itself. When I woke up, everything felt distant, like I was underwater. The hospital ceiling stared back at me, pale and unforgiving. My body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. Heavy, numb, stitched together with pain. And standing near the doorway was Armin. For a second, relief washed over me. My son was here. That meant everything would be okay. Armin! My voice barely came out. He didn't move right away. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Not worried. Not relieved. Just distant. "You're awake," he said flatly. I tried to smile. "Yeah, guess I'm hard to get rid of." He didn't smile back. That was the first crack. Over the next few days, I told myself I was imagining things, that he was just stressed. Hospitals do that to people. They make everything feel heavier, more real. But small things started to add up. He didn't stay long during visits. He rarely asked how I was feeling. And whenever the doctors spoke, he listened very carefully, too carefully. One afternoon, I overheard him in the hallway. "How long will recovery take?" he asked quietly, a pause. "And long-term? Will he be able to manage on his own?" Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. Not concern. Calculation. I tried to ignore it. After all, this was my son, the same boy I raised on my own after his mother passed, the same child I stayed up nights for, worked double shifts for, sacrificed everything for. I knew him. Or at least, I thought I did. When I was discharged, I couldn't walk without assistance. The doctor explained it gently. Months of recovery, maybe longer. Physical therapy, medication patients. I nodded through it all, but inside a quiet fear was growing. Not because of the injury, but because of Armin. "Don't worry," he said, as he helped me into the car. "I've arranged everything." Everything. The word should have comforted me. Instead, it felt heavy. At home, I noticed changes immediately. The house felt different. Cleaner, yes, but colder. Like something had been rearranged in a way that didn't belong to me anymore. "I moved some things around," Armin said casually. "Made it easier for you." I thanked him. But as days passed, I realized something unsettling. Decisions were being made without me. Bills I used to handle were suddenly taken care of. My documents were organized into folders I hadn't seen before. Even my phone, he insisted on simplifying it for me. "You don't need to worry about all this anymore," he said one evening. "Just focus on getting better." There it was again. That tone. Like I was no longer capable. Like I was a responsibility. At first, I tried to be grateful. Maybe this was just his way of stepping up, of taking care of me. But then came the conversations. Short, controlled, always on his terms. "Dad, have you thought about downsizing? This house is too much for you now. It might be better if we reorganize things financially." Financially. That word lingered longer than it should have. I looked at him carefully that night. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't fully recognize the man sitting across from me. There were flashes of the boy I knew, in the way he tapped his fingers on the table, in the way he avoided eye contact when things got uncomfortable. But there was something else now. Something sharper, more distant. Weeks passed. My recovery was slow but steady. I started regaining strength, small step by small step. But the more independent I became, the more irritated Armin seemed. "You shouldn't push yourself," he'd say, but there was no warmth behind it. One evening, I decided to review my bank statements. Just out of habit, except I couldn't access them. My password didn't work. Armin, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you change something? He walked in, calm as ever. Yeah, I updated a few security settings. It's safer this way. Safer for who? I asked before I could stop myself. For a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes. Annoyance. Dad, you're overthinking. I'm just trying to help. Help, that word again. I nodded slowly, but inside something shifted. That night I couldn't sleep. Every conversation replayed in my mind. Every small change. Every look. Every word that didn't quite sit right. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I never thought I'd need to ask. When did my son stop seeing me as his father and start seeing me as something else? The next morning, I decided to test something. Nothing dramatic. Nothing confrontational. Just a small step. Armand, I said over breakfast, keeping my tone light. I think I'll handle my own payments this month, just to stay in practice. He froze. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't notice, but I did. You don't need to worry about that, he said quickly. I've already taken care of everything. I know, I replied gently. I just want to try. Silence stretched between us. And then slowly, he set his cup down. Dad, he said, his voice lower now, it's better if I manage things. You're not in a position to deal with this right now. Not in a position. The words landed heavier than they should have. I leaned back in my chair, studying him. Armin, I said quietly, what exactly do you think my position is? For the first time since the accident, he didn't have an answer. But the look on his face said everything. And in that moment, I realized something was coming. Something I wasn't prepared for. Something that would change everything between us. I just didn't know how far he was willing to go. Until 3 days later, when I overheard a phone call that made my blood run cold. And that's when the real story began. I wasn't supposed to hear that phone call. It was late afternoon, and I had just finished my therapy exercises. My legs ached. But it was the good kind of pain, the kind that meant I was getting stronger. Slowly, quietly, I was taking pieces of my life back. Armin thought I was resting. That's why he didn't lower his voice. I'm telling you, it's temporary, he said from the other room. He can't manage things on his own anymore. I've already started moving the payments. My chest tightened. Payments? I stayed still, barely breathing. No, it's fine, he continued. Once everything is under my control, it'll be easier. The house, the accounts, all of it. He won't even notice. Silence. Then a quiet laugh. You worry too much. He trusts me. Something inside me broke, not loudly. Not suddenly, but in a slow, quiet way that felt far worse. He trusts me. I had spent my entire life earning that word, building it, protecting it, and now it was being used against me. I moved back to my room before he could see me. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because of the injury, but because of what I had just heard. That night, I didn't confront him. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I did something far more important. I paid attention. Over the next 2 days, I watched everything carefully. The way he checked his phone constantly. The way he avoided certain topics. The way he rushed through conversations when I asked anything related to finances. And then I saw it. A folder on his laptop. Left open for just a second too long. My name on it. I didn't need to open it. I already knew. That was the moment the fear disappeared. And something colder took its place. Clarity. I had a choice. I could confront him emotionally. Ask him why, beg him to explain, try to hold on to the version of him I still wanted to believe in. Or I could accept what was right in front of me. My son wasn't confused. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was making decisions, calculated ones, and I needed to respond the same way. The next morning, I called my bank. It wasn't easy. My hands trembled as I dialed the number. Not from weakness, but from the weight of what I was about to do. I verified my identity. Reset my access, changed every password, every account, every authorization, every automatic payment. Quietly, carefully, completely. Then I made one more call. Hello, I said, my voice steady. I'd like to review all outgoing transfers from the past month. As the details unfolded, everything became painfully clear. Small amounts at first, subtle, then larger ones. Shifted accounts, redirected payments. Nothing illegal, nothing obvious. Just enough to slowly take control. I closed my eyes for a moment. not in anger, but in acceptance. By the time I hung up, the last thread of denial was gone. That evening, Armin came home like nothing had changed. "How are you feeling?" he asked casually, dropping his keys on the table. "Better," I said. And for the first time in weeks, it was true. We sat down for dinner. The same table, the same routine, but everything was different. "I was thinking," I began, keeping my tone calm. "Maybe you were right." He looked up surprised. "About what?" "About you managing things." For a brief moment I saw it. Relief, satisfaction. "Yeah," he said, leaning back slightly. "It's just easier this way." I nodded slowly. "I agree." Silence settled between us, but this time, I controlled it. "I actually went ahead and made some changes today," I added. His expression shifted. "What kind of changes?" I met his eyes. "The kind that make things simpler." A flicker of unease crossed his face. "What do you mean?" I took a breath, not because I needed courage, but because I wanted the moment to last. "I canceled all the payments," I said quietly. The words landed like a stone in still water. Everything stopped. His posture stiffened. His eyes widened, just slightly, but enough. "What?" "All automatic transfers," I continued. "All shared access. Everything connected to my accounts." The silence that followed was deafening. "You, what?" His voice was sharper now. "I took back control," I said simply. "For the first time since the accident." He looked shaken. "Dad, you don't understand." "No," I interrupted gently. "I understand perfectly." That's when the mask cracked. Not completely, not dramatically, but enough. "You're overreacting," he said quickly. "I was just trying to help." I studied him for a long moment. "I know exactly what you were trying to do." He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Because deep down, he knew I knew. The room felt smaller now, tighter, like the truth had taken up all the space. "I heard the call," I said quietly. That was it. That was the moment everything changed. His shoulders dropped slightly. His gaze shifted. And for the first time, he didn't deny it. Instead, he looked at me, really looked, and I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not guilt, not regret, just exposure, like someone who had been caught too early. "You weren't supposed to—" "To hear that," he muttered. A strange calm settled over me. "You weren't supposed to say it," I replied. Silence. Long, heavy, final. I pushed my chair back slowly and stood up. My legs trembled slightly, but I didn't fall. "Not this time. I spent my whole life making sure you never had to struggle," I said, my voice steady but low. "And somewhere along the way, you started seeing that as something you could take." He didn't respond, because there was nothing left to say. I walked past him, each step stronger than the last. And just before I reached the door, I paused. "One more thing," I added without turning around. "I'm not as helpless as you thought." Then I walked away, not in anger, not in defeat, but with something far more powerful. Control. And behind me, for the first time since the accident, my son had nothing left to take.